What's up? My name's Glue Boy. Welcome back to the channel, and it's been a bit. It's been just a little bit since I've done a book video, uh, because I've taken a break from reading the Horus Heresy. I read a bunch back to back, and I struggle with ADHD issues, and I hyperfocus on things pretty bad. And so I kind of have to track the thing my brain wants to think about. I've been in a podcast binge, but I'm back to listening to books. And despite how long it took me to read Mechanicum, I actually really like this book. I went into it not expecting to enjoy it, because I'm not a big Mechanicus guy. I like this style of it a lot, but I've heard this book's a little boring. I've heard that it's not the most fun, and going into it, I was happily surprised by the fact that it was really enjoyable. I think a lot of the characters are fucking great. I really like Dahlia. I think she's honestly one of the more realistic human characters we've seen, in the fact that she's reacting to all these problems very understandably and being terrified of Warhammer bullshit. I think Coriel Zeth is the most based tech adept I've ever seen in my life. She's so cool. And there's a bunch of cool knight stuff that I get a lot of the terminology mixed up for. Precepts, Stormlord, which I only know Necron Stormlord. I'm not a big knight and Titan guy. I don't like mechs. I think mechs are really boring, unless it's Lancer. Lancer is an exception. That game fucking rules. I think this book is all around interesting, and honestly, in this case, I have more positives than to say about negatives, so I'm just gonna get the one problem I had with this book just out of the way. It's not a major one, it's just a minor thing, and a thing I'm noticing when it comes to the actual Horus Heresy series, and some more Warhammer books in general. I didn't care about the combat. And I know that's insane to hear, oh yeah, for Warhammer, the Warhammer fan is bored of combat. And it's at the end of the day, it's just people fucking shooting at each other, running away from scary things, whatever. And specifically, the problem is this book Mechanicum, the main point it's in the actual Horus Heresy, is the beginning of the Schism of Mars and the development of the Dark Mechanicum. It's a very major thing, major development in the Horus Heresy. Horus is getting ready to actually come out of the woodworks. Istvan 3 just happened. They built the ship for from Battle of the Abyss. A lot of events are happening, and it's about to kick off that really everything's going to shit. So it's the beginning of the Mechanicum splitting. And that's the part I wish it was more of, because the parts we do get of Mechanicum politics and religious divides, the subsects of the Mechanicum religion, are fucking dope. It's so interesting, it's so fun, and other than that, the knight stuff's fun, but it's just mech fights, and I don't care about mech fights. I was more interested in Dahlia and Zeth and Kelbor Hal and a lot of other those Mechanicum characters, because I thought they were written really well, because that's Graham McNeil for you. He makes fucking really good characters, and he humanizes a lot of characters in a cool way, since the Mechanicum, is robot people. It kind of goes against that. But the positives, because there are a good amount here that I have, and just some wide-ranging ones. First, this book is probably the best introduction for a new Warhammer fan to learn about the Mechanicum and the Night Houses and the Titan Legions, how they work. It doesn't go super deep into, the history of Knights and Titans, but it shows excellently how they work, what goes into them working, the development of the first God engine with a dude held in a stasis amniotic fluid tank rather than being, a normal pilot just steering something. He's actually melded with the machine. And it builds a lot of this. And also the fact that, Knights and Titans have spirits in them when they link to you. They have a personality when they're doing their shit. So following a character whose knight is just wants revenge against the people who fucked it up is really interesting. And then as well, just showing how the Mechanicum works, the religion of how it works, how many of the Forge worlds, Forge complexes in this case, how a lot of those actually operate, and how each specific one is very tailored based on the tech priest that's running it. And then, even then, the splits of that, because Coriel Zeth thinks a lot of the religious stuff is complete horseshit, and does not agree. Just thinks like it's a major disservice to the Emperor to worship him as the Omnissiah. It's very interesting, a lot of that stuff that goes into it. And at least plot wise, I think the story is really cool. I think Dahlia as like her power set is really fun. And then the major fucking reveal at the end of this. Now, I guess spoilers for those who haven't read Mechanicum, or spoilers for those who haven't seen a Mechanicum video or a Mechanicus video, I guess. The part where they find the Dragon of Mars at like the end of the book. Now, it's a very large thing of, oh, the Dragon of Mars is actually the shard, the Catan shard of the Void Dragon. Like, whoa, it's a part of him that the Emperor sealed. And I think you hear that, and you're just like, oh, that's weird. I wonder how it got there. Like, wonder what was going on. And then it kind of reveals the great secret of Mars is the fact that the Emperor found this, knew what it was, and specifically placed it in Mars so that the Mechanicum could exist, that he could exploit. And it's that whole idea of foreseeing the future, forcing it to come to pass, and benefiting from it, which is awesome. That part is such a cool thing. And also, I should state, it's not completely confirmed. No one calls it the Void Dragon, but it's the fucking Void Dragon. It 100% is. I don't know what else it could be. I wonder what other dragon fucks up technology around it could cause a religion of tech freaks. That part feels very just confirmed. They just don't say it outright. And then other than that, just the imagery of the book's really cool. The actual heavy use of Mechanicum stuff, the Mechanicum aesthetic, especially the dark Mechanicum. Oh my god, some of their stuff's horrifying. And a large part of this book is the main beginning of it, where a fucking code virus is unleashed on Mars. It's like this malicious code seeps through everything and fucks it up. And like all of that imagery in your head when you're like, well, me in my case, listening to it is fantastic. I adore Graham McNeill. I think Graham McNeill is one of my favorite authors in Warhammer, just for Black Library on their payroll. I adore Graham McNeill. He is a fucking genius. And he is an excellent job at making me give a shit about factions I don't care about. He did this with Fulgrim. He made me like Fulgrim for a brief bit. Then he fell and got a little, which I'm not into. But he made me care about the Emperor's Children. And here he made me care about a bunch of Mechanicum characters. I am so sad that we're not going to see Zeph anymore. She's not going to show up in future books. But there isn't much else to talk about. I was honestly thinking about holding off or even combining this with another thing, because I didn't think I had very much to say about it. I evidently still don't really. I stand by my stuff. I think that this book is an excellent introduction for new people. If you want to learn about these factions and you're new to Warhammer, picking up Mechanicum is a really good idea. I think you can read Mechanicum kind of isolated from the rest of the Horus Heresy. It doesn't do any major disservices. They just kind of name drop some stuff. They like, the Abyss or Istvan 3. They name drop a few things. And also some characters, actually. They name drop a few old characters from like the first 5 books, and it's kind of fun seeing those little callbacks. But other than that, it's just I wish there's more Mechanicum politics. I just really like slow burn talkie stuff, and I wish there's more of that and less of the fighting, because some of the fights were dope. They were well described. He did a good job, kept it engaging, better than some other authors so far as I've read up to. I'm looking at you, Descent of Angels. Fuck that book. I hate that book. But yeah, that's about it. I'll be resuming, books at my regular rate, hopefully. However, I'm making a slight detour. And the next book that's going to be covered here is the Konrad Curze Primarch book. Because all-around dope dude, Voxcast to Nowhere, link in the description, he recommended me this book. He pitched it really well. And by God, he was fucking right. This book rules. I am adoring it. I'm only halfway through, and this is already one of my favorite Warhammer books. It's so good. It doesn't help I love Konrad Curze. So I'll make a video on that down the line. So, yeah, if you like this, comment, subscribe, do that YouTube stuff, and see ya.